Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on 3DEXPERIENCE Widgets Fundamentals. My name is Marc Young, and my colleague Ashwani Sharma will be co-presenting this presentation. We're both from XLM Solutions. Please switch to next slide. A little bit about XLM Solutions. We are a complete PLM solution provider. We provide PLM services on a multiple of PLM products, everything from 3DEXPERIENCE, which we're talking about today, in both the cloud and on-premise versions of 3DEXPERIENCE. We also do work with SolidWorks PDM, Innovia Smart Team, the Exalead search and business intelligence tools from Dassault, and then IRIS, the IRIS PLM or IRIS Innovator product as well. We've been around since 2005 and bring many years of experience within the PLM industry. We really pride ourselves for having a really great expertise around both business and engineering processes and technical expertise. We are a Dassault business partner and a SolidWorks certified professional service company. So we're recognized by the Dassault companies for the work that we do. We really commit ourselves to providing quality and excellence through our continuous research, staying up to date on the latest best practices, industry trends, and initiatives, and can really provide all aspects of PDM or PLM implementations, everything from discovery workshops to general implementations, customizations, which we'll be talking about today, integrations to other systems like ERP systems, data migrations, moving data from legacy systems into a PDM or PLM platform, and then finally training and support. We have various cross-industry experience, industries from aerospace and defense to automotive to consumer goods, medical devices, etc. And then have a lot of technical knowledge ranging from different database and operating system skills of various program languages and programming within the 3DEXPERIENCE solution. Dealing with more traditional approaches, triggers, JPOs, JSPs, and more advanced and new programming languages like the EKL and widget development, which we'll be talking about today. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Ashwani to really get into the meat of the presentation. So Ashwani, go for it.
Yeah. Thank you, Marc. Good morning, friends. We'll starting up with the widgets presentation, and I move on. So basically, from the widgets, we understand the new technologies coming up for the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, and we'll just browse what is the 3DEXPERIENCE platform all about, some technical insights into widgets, some hands-on experience, and before that, we just browse you through the 3DEXPERIENCE apps and services and the infrastructure side, how it is assembled. So as we know, this is a compass. This is the compass relating to 2021X version. Again, there are various apps which are enterprise apps and dashboard, 3D Play, and Passport, Compass, Swim. They all are connected through the compass. And behind this, all services is connecting to the reverse proxy layer. Moving on, what are widgets? On my screen, you can see there are two typical kind of example. On the extreme right, there is an mobile screen, or in fact an Apple screen, which shows there are multiple widgets on a single screen. And this is also another example where there are more widgets. So widgets are relatively a very lightweight and easy to use application and software. They are connecting one or more software platform can be connected, and they are scripted in HTML and the new technology CSS 3, HTML5, and relatively all new technologies can be used, and they are very light in weight. So for example, on this screen we see that there are some TED Talks and there are some notes, or there are some music going on, some weather, and multiple widgets are there. Some music is there, which means that multiple data sources can be connected into multiple widgets, but extremely this is a single screen, which tells us that the capabilities can be enhanced and more data can be fetched into a single screen apart from various sources. So next we talk about what are widgets for 3D Experience platform. The widgets for 3D Experience platform are specialized application developed using standard web technologies, as I mentioned, HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS. So JavaScript still acts as a backbone, but we use RequireJS and some modified new versions of JavaScript. The features of widgets are they are movable, resizable, configurable, shareable, and also removable from dashboards. This we are going to see in our later stages of this presentation. How do we do all this? And they are also fast in loading, and UI elements are loaded only once. So widgets in dashboard can fetch data from two different sources. It could be internal sources, internal content, or an external content. So internal contents, as we understand, there could be from various apps, 3D Swim, 3D Comment, 3D Space, etc., 3D Dashboard also. And from external, like we have stock feeds, YouTube, or some RSS newsreader feeders, and or a third-party application can be connected to widgets. So next, how do we see widgets in the dashboard? As you know, we have some various apps. Even we can customize widgets. We can place our own apps next to these. So UI is primarily designed using UWA APIs. UWA is Universal Widget API. We are going to touch upon these as well today. Business logic is defined majorly in JPO and REST web services. And since primary defined UI is defined in JavaScript and HTML, so they are always processed on client side. As we know, the technologies JPO, as we are using in 3D space, they all are processed on server side. For each click on different client machines, the response to the server goes and everything processed on the server side. But here, the UI elements always load onto the client side, so we are leveraging an advantage of client machine as well, making our server empty and less loaded. Also, these UI elements are loaded only once along with the initial data set, and in the subsequent transaction, for example, we do multiple clicks or we use more of the widget screens, only the UI will be keeping the same elements as it is, and only data is being refreshed. So operational cost of application server where the data is held becomes lower because server is processing less now. Earlier in our cases of JPOs, every single click used to go to the server, and server used to process multiple responses from various clients. So next, we can deploy widgets in two particular ways. 3D can be viewed in multiple ways, and the two most commonly used ways are one widget in one window and many small widgets in a single window. Also, we should also note that 3D dashboard widgets are standalone and independent of other widgets. However, they can only be hosted in 3D dashboard. For example, we have an URL and we want to run that URL in our web browser, assuming that this is a widget code and it would run, that would not happen. So you cannot run an widget inside a web browser. You have to run within the 3D dashboard boundaries. So this is a screen from 2021X, and this is an example where one widget has a single window. If you see that skills development and 3ds value partners, here the screen holds a single widget where I can see that multiple kind of data feeds coming from comment is here, comment and swim. Next, we can also have multiple small widgets. If you see here, there is one widget here where the images are flashing. Second widget is this one, third, fourth, and fifth. So in all, we have 5 widgets on a single screen. And extremely, all this data are coming from various different sources. This could be processing some static images and in jQuery mode, and they are all different sources of data fetch. So you see that 5 different sources are being combined and shown onto a single page. So this is a very good example of multiple widgets in a single screen. We can do with our custom widgets also, and the OTP widgets also can be placed in multiple ways. Totally depends on the requirements. Just a quick view here. This is the dashboard page. Here we have the dashboard. You can rename this dashboard and do a selection or change the dashboard. Here is a standard 3D search and the 6W taggers are there. Then you have this new dashboard. If you click here, you can do a tab name selection and rename this tag also. Even you can do right click. We will see this today. And on plus button, you can add more tabs. There are 4 widgets being shown on the screen. So this is also an example of multiple widgets on a single screen, single dashboard. So we have gone through our basic knowledge now. So we would like to understand the architecture and some more advanced feature, how this widgets technically works and how they all are related things. So as we see, this is a dashboard screen. As I told you, dashboard will load your data elements. These elements, they would load onto your screen only once, which means everything comes on the client side and it gets loaded. Subsequently, if you refresh the screens or a widget, they go back, connect to your database, and which is on the server side, and database internally would handle your REST web services. It could be business logic, maybe in the 3DEXPERIENCE data kernel or in the GPU or in the REST web services, and data will be exchanged. The major communication channel, the arrow what I show here, it will be a data exchange channel. Majorly that would be a JSON format. And how we guys can learn more on the widgets, we have some help documentation stuff from Dassault. If you need to browse to developer assistance and dashboard and widgets under JavaScript, and there are a few topics here, then widget creation, architecture, and also there are some references. These references tell us about how these widgets will be helpful. Actually, these are the coding side. These references are the coding side of the widgets. I have a quick link for 2021 next documentation and the 20x version documentation here. So this is just a starting point where guys can learn, but still there are more things. So the basic skills required to focus on widget development are HTML, JavaScript, UWA-JS, and CSS. So most of us know HTML and CSS. We are familiar in JavaScript. So we will touch upon few more things into what is JSON and what is UWA. And additional to this, AMD concepts are used, which means asynchronous module definitions for developing the widgets. And the AMD module is supporting because we are using RequireJS. RequireJS is a framework which is supported by Dassault. So Dassault says that RequireJS framework will be supported by them. But you can also use some external JavaScripts and external libraries, but ultimately they are not supporting it, but it is definitely possible. We have tried to use some external libraries like jQuery and Ajax JS you can use. That is completely working here. In line to this, JSON also finds a very massive advantage and in the widget development, because you are using for data exchange purposes the data which is communicated from client's widget to the server side and the response coming back from server side to the client side. Moving on, some introduction and basics of JS. JS is RequireJS is a basic loader which is loaded to the JavaScript files, and it is a framework which manages various dependencies of JavaScript files, because you will load many JavaScript files in the widgets, and there has to be a proper way and a channel how you assemble these files and load. So RequireJS is the best tool to assemble your different JavaScript files from different modules, by which it helps to improve speed and quality of code. For example, you are adding multiple JavaScript files to your code, but you do not know what are the dependencies and how they are going to link your application. Then it actually becomes difficult to debug and modify or to make an application, to develop an application. RequireJS comes up with a standard feature of require, define, and require method, which will help us. I'll talk about in the next slide. And the advantage of a RequireJS is because in a large application, a lot of JavaScript will be needed, and you need to tag everything. So it is easy to familiarize. So the basic structure of RequireJS has two JavaScript functions. You see here require and define. If you see the basic structure, first you define, and then you call a require and add use that. So this is how you define ds/lib_a/module. This is one JavaScript, which means there is a JavaScript called module B, and there is a JavaScript called module A. Both are placed in library C folder, and this is placed in library A. So here two JavaScripts are called, and this is the function. Okay, and this is here we have written here comments. It is following which module. And when you define, this is how you define and use them. Then you are declaring a var, and this is just inside is like an JavaScript, but here the process to define it and require to use it is little bit different. So JSON, as I told you, this will be the major data exchange format. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and recently, if you guys have noticed, it finds a very long way, and most of the applications are switching and using the Java JSON format. JSON also uses human readable text to store and transmit data objects consisting of attribute. It could be value and pair attributes. An array can also be stored, and it can resizable and serializable. It is also a very common data exchange in a diverse range of application, and it is coming up as an update version or a replacement to XML and AJAX systems. The JSON are built on two structures: a collection of name value pair, example and object is there, or record can be there, struct, dictionary, hash table, etc. can be there, or it can be having arrays, vector, or list, which are kind of an ordered list. On the right side, if you see, this is a JSON. For example, this was a PHP page. Even JSON can be used anywhere, and this was a JavaScript where the server side response is there. So how you can see that how a JSON is defined here. Apple is defined, and it has two attributes, color and flavor. And again, there is a second fruit, lemon, also has color and flavor. So you are writing a JavaScript function, JSON.parse, and trying to achieve that value from a JSON. Okay. JSON can also help, for example, daily my JSON, if some dynamic data is there, I cannot update my code daily, but onto a specific location on a server, I can update my JSON daily, and probably in the next run, the data on the UI will get on the server gets reloaded quickly. So here it's fine and a very good approach to use JSON. Had it been an your application server being changing your code daily, it is difficult and deployment becomes critical. So now we come back to our 3D experience. Those were the basics of the very basics what are required. Some more techy things will be required. We'll talk about them later. So first we understand how our client and web server. So web browser are our client sides, and ultimately my 3D experience platform is onto the server side. They all are client side browsers, or the client are connected through HTTPS layer, a secure firewall layer, through a reverse proxy layer. Reverse proxy and the SSL keys or the certificates what we use are responsible to connect various application servers like Passport, Dashboard, 3D Space, these three being the basic ones. Then you have Command, Federated Search, 3D Search, and many more services which connects through your reverse proxy layer. So technically, from your reverse proxy layer to your 3D experience platform, this whole bunch refers to your internal network, and this firewall and your reverse proxy HTTPS layer and the certificates will help you take care of your attacks and everything which are coming from web browser and from the client side. and they help you this is an external network. There are two kinds of network being built up. Okay, saying that we have an external network and request coming to our internal network, how would they be secure? Why do we need SSL keys, firewall, and reverse proxy? So I have come up with a short analysis, very quick analysis onto the reverse proxy, and which also says that why widgets are using reverse proxy layer to communicate. So as we all know, Passport will validate each user logged into the network to the 3DEXPERIENCE applications, and also as a centralized authentication service, it provides a login. Saying this, it doesn't only validates your user, it also has a reverse proxy layer, which connects your various 3DEXPERIENCE app, dashboard, services, 3D space, swim, content, comment, etc. So reverse proxy is a type of a proxy server that retrieves resources on behalf of a client. For example, a client request comes from an internet from any person, and here reverse proxy layer will filter it, and on behalf of a client, it could fetch data from one or more servers. These resources are then returned to the client, and to a client, it looks like this is a single server response giving me back as if it originated from a single server. If you focus onto the diagram given in the bottom of the screen, here we have 3D passport, space, and dashboard, different servers. I can host this on a single machine, but logically on big enterprise application, they are hosted on different machines. So there could be different IP address, different host names, or maybe multiple companies or enterprise are holding these servers. Reverse proxy will never let this internet user or the client users know that what is the IP address or what is the actual machine name. It actually all these your SSL keys and firewall will handle it and encrypt this. That's why we use SSL keys. So again, to the application user, it looks like this is a single server response giving me a response back. As I told you, reverse proxy can hide the existence and characteristics of original servers. And for firewall features, they can also handle your web-based attacks like denial of service, DOS or DDoS attacks. Additional to this, some enterprise would like to use an hardware-based firewalls or hardware-based reverse proxy also. That is also possible to make your application more secure. So when you use a reverse proxy, so removing malware or initiating takedowns to your internal network becomes very difficult. And it will also handle your load and distribute the load of various incoming requests. So from multiple points, we see that reverse proxy will act as an kind of an guard to your internal network from an external application request coming in and protect your application. Since widgets are held in our 3D dashboard, so they are also becoming secure, and nobody will able to know from how many sources you are getting the data. Only on the computer screen on the client side you see only data loading there. So there are some tools how you can do some widget development and how do you do the coding. For the widgets, you can use, we technically do JS coding or the RequireJS as I told you. Notepad++ could be fine. Any text editor, VS Code, Atom or Eclipse IDE also can be worked. For debugging purpose, if you see I have done an F12 or the Control-Shift-K and see how the responses are going on. You see here AMD loader.js is there. These all are the internal JavaScript files which dashboard uses it. These are the kind of a driver. These actually comes into AMD module, the AMD loader.js. For coding of web services, if it's required, you can again use IntelliJ, Eclipse IDE or any other possible IDE. To test your web services, in case you guys are writing a web service, REST client is a extension for Firefox, and Postman for Chrome. I usually use these two, and there are many more on the internet, but these two are the good ones. One for Chrome and the Firefox. Moving on. Now let's come back and see how your widgets code is placed and what all does the widget code have. So the primary location of OTB widgets is in under 3D space when Tomcat, Tommy, web apps, 3D space, and again there would be a web apps folder. If you guys see, there are some 2D annotation, 3D dashboard getting started. These all are OTB apps, and these all are on-premise widget. Also, custom widgets can also be created in the same directory for quick test and development purposes. And these are on-premise environment. Here you can create a directory and add more widgets to it, your code. So on-premise widgets are highly customizable. They are more efficient than 3D space and can use REST web services as well. So understanding this point, we will focus this and technically see that how they are fast and what all they are leveraging to us. For customer deployment, widgets should be deployed in an external web server, and widget source codes can be deployed on any web server as long as 3D dashboard can access that Tommy, and it can access this. How this dashboard will access this Tommy, and why we are going to place a web server to your widget codes to a different web server can be configured through reverse proxy layer. There are some settings which can be made to your reverse proxy httpd.config and add more configuration files, and this can be made working. Custom widget source codes can also be placed on any web directory also. As far as it is accessible, it can be done. So one more important thing on which the widgets are working is the UWA API framework. So it technically means universal web app. It's a simple and elegant way of presenting a web apps framework, and uses your XHTML for structuring and CSS for styling and JavaScript, Ajax for behavioral or DOM data modeling. UWA lets developer to build one and run anywhere kind of applications. UWA can be virtually support on all major web browsers, computer, and even the smartphone. So I have added some few quick useful reasons why we want to use UWA and why does widgets apply UWA framework. They're quick and simple, build one and run anywhere. Even they are mobile compatible. Everything is moving on clouds and mobile. So we also want to become cloud and mobile compatibles. They are 100% compliant with the new web standards. They're elegant, look and feel quite beautiful, rather comparing to your old 3D dashboard screens. And even in 3D dashboard or 3D space, you have a similar kind of look and feel, but changing look and feel is difficult. But here in every new widget, you can give your custom CSS, apply your custom CSS, and build new variety of screens. And they're adaptive because NetWise platform supports a variety of devices. So this is my first screen where you technically see a code where what is widget source code looks like something this, and this is an actual UWA structure. So there are some rules to write this file. In first line, we see that there is an doc file, some specified. This is a DTD specification for our XHTML 1.0 standards here. Then we have defined XML namespaces. XML namespaces for widgets are very required. If you do not add this file, HTML, XML namespaces, these two lines, your widget will not work. It actually doesn't identify what is a widget. This is an identification for your HTML or to the 3D dashboard to understand that this HTML belongs to a widget code. There are some meta, title, name, and meta description. You can add multiple more of it. And this is a linking of your style sheets. We are including a CSS. Then here we are including JavaScript files. You can see this is an online JavaScript file. For offline, you can give // that folder name and the JavaScript files. So here they have included UWA standalone.js. This is a DS specific JS. We can find this in our web apps folder. These are some widget preferences where they have tried to add some widget preferences, and default value is world. Also, then you write the script tags and you can begin your coding, or the widget coding actually begins after this code. So these are kind of a minimal stuff what you need to go and add. The optional stuff what I can see here is only a widget preference. every widget doesn't need a preference. It is an optional component. If you need a widget preferences, you can write it. Otherwise, you can skip only this component of this whole UWA structure. So I think some ground rules have been set, and one more technical point which we want to show is the REST web service. Why we use REST web service? You know, everything is connecting to a cloud. Everything is worlds are connected to different thing, and we're going to an environment where web services are more utilized. So RESTful web services follow the REST architecture based web services. Henceforth, even DS specific web services what we build for widgets are also REST, and they are scalable only for REST. They do not support SOAP web services. They are light in weight, highly scalable and maintainable, and very commonly used to create APIs for web-based applications. On the 3DX platform, on-premise platform, REST web services can be customized and widgets can support various business needs. So depending on what your business requires, what is your requirement, you can build your web service. Accordingly, you can build your UI, connect them, and start using a widget. RESTful web services are accessible only by a specific URI. So we'll come to know what is the specific URI in later slides. And JSON or XML are common ways to represent the access resources, but we will focusing major on JSON, not on XML. If you see the structure, there is a client and there is a server. So this is kind of an URI. Some /service/weather is a service or a REST interface is defined there. You need to connect to this web service, and then here he is passing in JSON. You can see JSON as a request and JSON as a response has come back onto the client side. And the both sides you need to process the JSON, and you can show it in the UI. So as I show you REST architecture, why are we using JSON and why are we focusing on REST API architecture? What is the need? If you see, the today's world is evolving very fast, and Android apps, iPhone apps, web browser, and there are kind of varieties, tablets, smartphones that are increasing day by day. All of these have a standard JSON or an XML practice which can connect to your REST web services, and REST services can do various operations. They can do delete, put, get, or post operations. So for if you want to delete a resource or something, for example, you want to delete a subject, you have to write a delete kind of a web service. If you write a put or a get kind of a web service and do that, that is actually a wrong practice. You should write a delete kind of it to like add some documents, to add some objects in the system. You should use a put kind of a web service. If just we want to do some read kind of work or get some details of objects or some data from the system, we can use get kind of web service. This is all. They also support multiple servers, also load balanced. So here are few get methods or HTTP methods. What are they? Usually we refer to as CRUD operations, CRUD. They are called as CRUD operations, and specific needs they can be used. So let's come on to some hands-on and see how these widgets work. So on a below screen, I show you there's an auto number generator widget written with us, and you can choose a type here. You click on next auto number. The auto number will be shown here, and a hello widgets was there. We'll show you this just now. How do we create on widgets in our 3DEXPERIENCE platform is by custom widget can be accessed by 3D by configuring additional apps. This is how you configure your additional apps. To configure an additional app, you should have a platform manager role, and widget code can be hosted in internal or external, as I explained you earlier. And widget platform engine loads this, transforming the widget in 3DEXPERIENCE. And these all are trusted widgets. So whatever widgets you create for on-premise within 3D dashboard, on the 3D space, if you keep the folders, they are trusted widgets. They are not untrusted widgets. Trusted widgets have an advantage that they can use all your internal 3D platform web services and as well as data services from 3D Space, comment, passport, dashboard, anywhere you can use it. But for example, the ones they are data readers or they are RSS feeds, they are just kind of untrusted widgets. They cannot read your internal data structure. So majorly admin platform manager role is with admin platform user. You log in with that, go to dashboard, go to platform management, and in the members tab, you come down and click on additional apps. I'll show you this in a while. Then you can configure, you can give a short name, a full name, and configure this, your widget URL, and say save. If you want to add an icon, you can click here and add an icon. After save, you can create a dashboard and you can add this widget there. I will show you, I will demo this now. And this is some coding where this particular we write this. If you see here are doc standards written there, then this NetVibes URL is there, XML namespaces, and some titles and meta information. We needed some scripts, so these 3 scripts were required because jQuery was used here. jQuery was actually used for this one to load this type on load, and DS require framework. This is a require framework used here from RequireJS, and this is a defined framework being used from RequireJS framework. So we can see that these are to customize, and i3dx compass services is an internal service or an internal script defined earlier by DS itself. This is an OTB, and autonom checker are custom scripts which are defined. So this is a just short code to how to place your HTML and then connect to the web service. We also developed some reporting features using 3D dashboard. So we will present this one today, and let's have some hands-on, and we will come back to this screen. Okay, this is a 21x version. First, let's see. If you go here and go to your platform management, go to members tab, come down, create an additional app. Full screen it. You can write here autonom, and it's an auto number generator. You mostly we are going to choose as a widget because it's a widget, it's not a web or a native kind of an application. And you need to select this if you want that enterprise level all users want to see. For development purpose, if you are going to use a admin platform, you can still uncheck it. Suggestible is to check it and add a source code, a URL. A URL could be of this kind. I will just show you from here. Onto our web server, we have 3D space. Until in the 3D space, we have web apps, and there we are holding this widget. This is your URL. Once you click save, you can choose here and save some image also required. And to create more dashboards, you can come here, say dashboard. I want an empty dashboard, new, and it's created. Here, if you just click here, you can add your name or anything. Okay, you can add more dashboard here. You can change the name also. If you go to edit screen, you can edit it again. And if you want to manage it, go to a different dashboard, you can do that. So for today's demo, I have already have one here. I'll refresh it. As I told you that these are a single widget and all widgets are independent. If you see, the same widget is loaded twice onto my screen, on the left side and the right side. And there are some types loaded to it. For example, change order. I want to see what is the next auto number. I click here and is 102. I will also go here and choose change order again and click here. So it shows me a different number. So saying that if you see onto my screen, the UI elements did not load again, but data elements always change. Okay, and we can have a different example. This is relatively a new platform installed a few days back. So you see very new numbers here. I go to VPM reference here. Okay, you see one number here and the second number here. So they all widgets function independently, regardless of they are used multiple times on a screen or a single time on a screen. The reporting feature, what we were talking about, this is a reporting feature. For example, you need some part report and can refresh it from here and do a refresh. Okay, and if you need an all part report with some attributes, I have a short report, gives you a download report function. You can save it and we will see this. So this was some, I have only these parts because it's a new platform. Few days back I have added these parts and I printed some few basic attributes. So this is how you can leverage your, these all response come from your REST web service. REST web service is written and placed in the background so that a REST endpoint controls this. So other feature here, I have added here some download button. These are dynamic button. If you see this kind of UI to build in 3D space is quite difficult. If you want a mail back and say generate report, in some period of time you'll get a mail back because the web service says the report has been made successfully. So you can get a mail back. Similarly, if you see here over a different concept, this was a generate report, and if you click mail back, the same button dynamically changes to your report on mail. So there can be many things built onto this. So these are some basic examples what we see, and I do not see. Okay. Okay. So we have an hello world. Okay, we do not. Okay, we will scale it up. We have a widget preferences here. Okay. If you change here, I say my name here. Okay, this loads here. So this is how you can add preferences and you can play with the preferences. If you want to delete it, this is a dashboard not required. Okay, you can delete it. And how do you place this? Can quickly show you. This is our custom reports folder, and this is the one hello world. This is the HTML. These are the script folder. The styles basically refer for the CSS, and the scripts would have, these are two JavaScripts defined for this widget, and this is the jQuery, which has been the standard jQuery library. And you see here, there are many widgets, almost there are many with the OTB ones. So this is a short example and a kind of a demo where you can build application. These are the one. So coming back to our PPT, we showed you this one, and I will summarize the advantages why we want to use widgets and why we want to leverage this platform more in the future, because they are lightweight, HTML and script-based application, load faster, multiple data source can be plugged in, configured to show information on a dashboard, interactive. We see that they are interactive. We can use new kind of technologies there. Unlike the 3D space, that old style, it still shows a similar kind of style onto your each screen, but you can leverage the advantage and build different screen on custom widgets. So widgets are easy and deployment is easy. HTML5 and CSS won't be required. For web services, you can combine into a jar file and place it into your library folder. And when your Tommy loads, your scripts will be loaded. And REST web services can provide more customizable in features. JSON would be majorly responsible for data exchange and retrieving data from the server. And they also have ability to create custom specific widgets on business logic or the business requirements. These are the major advantages of widgets. And thank you. And we are open for questions now.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Again, we hope you enjoyed this webinar and would love your feedback. But yes, if anyone has any questions, please type them in to the question box or chat box through GoToWebinar. So we have one question that says, how long does it take to create a custom widget? And it really depends on the complexity of what that widget needs to do. We were able to create some of these examples in a matter of days, but it could possibly take weeks plus if it's complex logic.
Yeah, yes, Mark.
Yeah.
Totally depends on what kind of business logic or for what functionality the widget would be required for.
Yeah. The next question is, what are the license required to create a widget? And for the widgets, at least we worked on, basically you need the standard DSO licenses, which is the IFW and the CSV license. However, if you're accessing certain functionality through web services, depending on what that web service is, you may need a license for that module that web service is tied to. But for standard stuff like we showed, it's this CSV and IFW. Anything else to add?
No, this is correct. For example, Mark rightly mentioned, if you want to use some engineering central web services, this was an example of on-premise. We can also do some customization on cloud also if you want engineering central web services which are pre-written by DS. So you need licenses for those to access them. For basic ones, really the one what we showed today, they did not have some licensing issues, and they are completely fine with CSW and IFW, CSV and IFW. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, the next question, someone said they created a widget, but when they changed the HTML, they have to restart the web service for it to work. I don't know, that's more of a technical thing. Yeah,
that is correct, Mark. We see that there is a major application development change from 2020X version to 2020X version. There are some properties which can disable your cache to fasten up your work. But still in 21X version, they have changed the standards to how to disable the cache. And I think the only solution for current time being is to restart your application. I agree that it's not a fast solution, but yes, we do not have a ready-made solution to disable cache. At least for 20X version, we do not have. And I would also like to mention that web services, what we build, we have tested on 19X version, 20X and 21X version. And the current platform which we showed was HF4. So they all are compatible with each of the different platforms. So we did not even change a single line of code. They were only the jar files were changed, were placed in a different platform, and they all were compatible. So even this also adds to your compatibility. For example, somebody builds up in the 19X version and today upgraded their environment. So still your web services will work with, I would say, with minimal efforts, not with the maximizing of efforts, with the minimal efforts.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question is, can you customize out-of-the-box widgets? And I'll say that for right now, or did you ever customize or reuse out-of-the-box widgets and modify them? So right now, any out-of-the-box widgets are really locked down. You cannot modify them.
Yeah, they are difficult, but we are still exploring on it, and I would say that it is in process. But actually what happens, you minify your JS, your actual code, and then your code is not recognizable so easily, and it is difficult to make some changes or add customization OTB widgets. It is difficult.
I would also add, as it's like we said, it's difficult to do that. There are areas where you can have openings or tie into events through EKL and other business logic, where the out-of-the-box widget may trigger a event, based on a save or change state or add, delete, update, etc. In other areas within the platform. So this is not always the case, but certain widgets may listen to certain openings or events where you could put in EKL logic. But that will be another topic for another webinar.
Yep.
So someone said, I'd like to customize the Zen app widget, and correct. Today we don't have a good way to do that. We would love for Dassault to open that up so we can, but
there are few restrictions to customize the OTP widgets. I think so that some licensing issues might come up because OTP widgets are customizing and adding some custom code. But for once you customize the scratch widgets or the new widget development, that won't be that much of trouble, and things will be easy in that side.
Yeah. The next question is, it said, did you ever work on interactive widgets? So I assume that means you change something in one widget and it would be reflected or changed in another widget. So based on what you do, the widget would affect the other one. Like if you click on something, it would open it up in 3D Play in the other widget. So yes, we did not show any of that in this session, but we have.
But we have built we built an example where you can drag and drop your functionality. For example, there is a part loaded on my left side screen. You drag and drop, and the details or the attributes come up. And for example, reports. If you click view report, your report will load on the dashboard. Just for demo purpose, we have not shown, but we have already built those applications with us.
All right, no, good. So next question, can these widgets be useful to use instead of UI components like tables, forms, etc.? So I would say yes, as 3D space and the old way of doing things with tables, forms, etc. are going away. Widgets is probably the future for displaying that data. So yes.
If you guys see here, there are, if you see the HTML tags are used to build up that UI table structure, and then the TDTR functionalities are built up here. So more of a table structures can be used. I would say all of your HTML concepts and HTML5 concept, all the concepts of CSS can be used here. You can leverage that advantage.
Next question, if we want to fetch some data from CATIA into a widget, can we do it with basic CSV and IFW licenses? I guess it depends on what data you want to fetch. You would obviously most likely still need a CATIA license.
CATIA license would be required, and I think so something related to engineering stuff would also be required for licensing.
Yeah, but I could see something being done, but really it really depends on the detailed requirements there. So if you just wanted to read data from CATIA and display it, then I would say yes, if you had the CATIA license. If you wanted to visualize the CATIA data or do something with it, you may need more stuff. Next question, how are the 3D space roles being managed in widgets? So there is a widget to manage users and roles. And the roles that work within 3D space work in the widgets as well. So it's just different ways of looking at the data, but it's the same roles and
Technically, if you see the auto number which I was using or the reports what I developed on the backend side, they are contacting 3D space because 3D dashboard doesn't host any of the data of 3D space. And no other no other service, I mean, comment, film doesn't hold those data. All would be in 3D space. For a single liner, I would say that is dashboard is a flashy new thing which you're contacting 3D space in the background and shows your data onto your new screen. That's it.
So the next question is, can we build or customize widgets in the 3DX cloud environment? And so for that, I would say yes, we were able to do that in the past in older versions, but in newer versions, it looks like Dassault has locked it down more. I don't know, Ashwani, if you have anything else to add.
It is correct. And majorly, if the cloud is managed by DS, so they won't allow you to do customization. So the concept, if you see, I have mentioned at few places on-premise. So basically, we would say that if you want to build your own widgets and leverage more of your 3D space to the dashboard side, you should go for on-premises widget, and of course, you need an on-premise installation for that. If the cloud is managed by DS, it will be extremely difficult, and I do not see that they would allow to build your custom widgets.
And even when we had something working in an older version for the cloud, you still had to host the widget in your own environment or on your own server. So you still needed, you couldn't host the widget in the Dassault cloud. So you still needed a server to host the widget technology on and run off that as well.
Correct.
So it makes things obviously more confusing. And again, hopefully
It becomes difficult,
more direction on how that can be done. I think just a comment I mentioned, if you wanted to change an out-of-the-box widget, you could use business logic. And they said that, you know, they tried and the business logic that worked was very basic, and I agree. You know, a lot of the widgets don't support the business logic, or the ones that do, it's very basic. But I think that's the direction going forward, how that will be done. And then finally, there's a question about, you know, getting into more details about file downloads through the widget. And I would say that's something we can take offline, and obviously we can work with you per a service engagement. You know, obviously if you wanted more assistance in doing that. And then finally, can we use Inovia tables and widgets? So I'd say the answer is no. The Inovia tables through, you know, the 3D space functionality is not, you know, it doesn't transfer over to widgets. You would have to create your own HTML tables if you wanted to do something.
Yes. Actually, I would ask this question, that why you want to use that. I think that some guys are interested to use table.jsp or some basic JSPs there to here. Here I'm trying to tell you that there is no need of JSP. There is no need of any server-side technology. Again, understand, if you use a JSP in your widget or a server-side technology, that code runs on your server, the server side. But here, this HTML and CSS runs on your client side. So, for example, if there is a report feature, what we showed you just now, this one, there are 1,000 people accessing this in my company. So 1,000 times my server is loaded. Instead, those 1,000 computer would be loaded, individual client machines will be loaded, and your server will be happy and it will be lightly loaded, which will be responding faster. And if you see, when I click the generate report button, immediately the response came back and a downloader accessible onto the dashboard. Whereas if you build the same feature, you use the same kind of logic onto 3D space, that immediate or that response time would be more higher. So we are leveraging to move in a direction where response time is less, client side is involved, and server side is free. As much as server side is free, you get the things very early. And that's what the customer wants. User wants on a click, you should have things in front of you.
Yeah, so the widgets in theory are much more responsive than full JSP pages. So we have one last question. I mean, if anyone else has any more questions, please let us know. But the last question here is, what about having your own custom widget in the Dassault private cloud? And that's a great question. I don't have the answer, but something to definitely look into and get back to. Definitely,
we can get back to it, because that would be concept of the cloud holding on the side.
Yes. So with that, thank you very much. Please reach out to us per the information on the slide if you have any additional questions, want to talk to us individually, and we would love your comments and feedback on this presentation. But with that, thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye. See you.